Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today we're diving into a company that really sits at that interesting intersection of finance and machine learning, Upstart Holdings. And the big question, the one we know a lot of you are asking, is pretty straightforward. Looking at everything, the latest moves, the technicals, is now actually a good time to buy Upstart?
Yeah, and that question, it really hinges on whether you believe their whole risk profile has fundamentally changed. I mean, this company has made some pretty bold strategic pivots recently. They seem to be moving away from being just this, volatile growth story towards something that a lot of analysts are now seeing as maybe a more, let's say, de-risked growth play. Understanding that shift is absolutely crucial if you're thinking about investing here.
Totally agree. And we're going to try and give you all the info you need to, well, weigh that risk for yourself.
Yeah.
And hey, while we're getting started, just a quick reminder, if there's a specific company you want us to tackle in a future segment, definitely leave us a comment below. Seriously, we shape these conversations around what you're interested in. And please hit that subscribe and like button too, if you haven't already. It helps us out. Okay, so let's set the stage. How are the core fundamentals looking? If we check the trailing 12 months, the TTM, where does Upstart actually stand financially right now?
Well, the TTM picture shows a company that's managed to stabilize its revenue, which is pretty impressive given the headwinds in the credit market. Revenue sitting at $884.81 million. But what's maybe more telling is their push towards profitability. They reported a TTM net loss of only negative $6.35 million, and EPS is just a negative 0.0007 TTM. I mean, they are really close to getting into sustained profitability.
Right.
And this narrowing of the losses, it's a direct result, really, of management focusing on what they call higher quality loan originations and just being really disciplined on costs.
Okay, so those negative numbers for net income and EPS, someone new to this might see them and worry, right? But you're saying for a fintech that's still scaling up, these figures actually show pretty effective strategy and good operating leverage potential.
Yeah, precisely. They're kind of deliberately giving up tiny bits of profit right now to make sure they're building a loan book that's more sustainable for the long haul. Their current market cap is around $5.02 billion. So, to justify that kind of valuation, the market is clearly betting big on future profits and the scalability of their whole platform.
Which leads us to maybe the potential watch out, cash flow.
Exactly, that's the one. For a growth company pouring money into R&D, platform expansion, you often expect negative cash flow. Our sources suggest their quarterly operating cash flow is negative, somewhere around negative $120.16 million. Now, while that's pretty typical for a fintech scaling up like this, it's definitely the metric you absolutely have to keep an eye on.
Because negative cash flow means they need outside money.
Right. They're relying on external funding or dipping into their cash reserves. If the capital markets suddenly got tight, well, that reliance could become a serious problem fast.
Okay, so if that's the risk side, what's the core asset? What justifies that $5 billion market cap and all the hype? What's their competitive moat against, say, traditional banks?
It's the tech, plain and simple. Their AI-powered lending platform. It offers faster, and this is the key part, more predictive borrower assessment than the old-school FICO models most lenders are still using.
FICO, that feels like it's from another era almost.
Right. It's decades-old tech. Upstart is really seen as a pioneer in using AI to figure out risk. This lets them lend more accurately, potentially offer better rates to millions of people who might get, mispriced or just totally shut out by the legacy systems. And being a leader in that space, it helps build customer trust and, importantly, regulatory acceptance, too.
Okay, let's talk about that strategic pivot you mentioned, because this feels like the heart of the recent story change. There were some concerns earlier about loan quality, and the company adapted. How did that change their risk profile?
They pivoted hard, really focused on risk management by moving much more heavily into super prime lending. And this isn't just some minor tweak, it's a measurable de-risking strategy. In Q2 of 2025, get this, super prime borrowers made up 26% of all their originations.
26%? Wow. But wait, if they lean too heavily into super prime, aren't they kind of abandoning their original pitch? Using AI to find those overlooked near-prime borrowers, doesn't that just turn them into a fancy prime lender and maybe cap their growth?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? That's the big debate on the street right now. The bull case, the optimistic view, is that this shift actually proves the AI isn't just for growth. It's a superior capital management tool. It shows they can dynamically adjust their risk appetite based on what's happening in the economy, preserve capital when things look dicey. Big firms like Morgan Stanley are pointing to this move as key for reducing risk and supporting more stable, predictable growth going forward, even if it means maybe less hypergrowth volume right now.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about demonstrating control. And I guess the proof is in the pudding, or in the credit data in this case.
It's huge. I mean, one independent research firm, BTA, gave the stock a massive boost recently. They dramatically revised their delinquency estimates downwards. They went from predicting 11.2% delinquencies, which is pretty bearish, down to a much healthier 6.2% for the August data.
Cutting expected losses almost in half, like that. That's enormous for a lender's valuation, right? It directly impacts how much capital they need to hold, frees up cash.
Exactly right. It boosts the profitability of every single loan they make. And that perceived drop in risk is exactly why analyst sentiment has gotten so strong. Right now, we've got 14 analysts rating the stock a buy, and crucially, the average price target is sitting up at $76.04. Given where the stock is trading now, that implies something like a 45.9% potential upside. That shows real conviction in this de-risking strategy working long-term.
All right, let's switch gears a bit and look at the charts. Fundamentals are one thing, but timing and entry often involves the technical picture. As of October 2nd, 2025, the share price is hovering around $52.13.
What's the technical setup telling us?
Well, the setup is a bit mixed, but potentially opportunistic. The shares are currently trading below both the 50-day moving average, which is at $68.86, and the 200-day, that's at $61.45.
Okay, so below key averages usually signals weakness. Generally, yeah. Being below those long-term averages indicates some recent selling pressure, maybe consolidation. It suggests weakness in the near term. However, if you look at the 52-week range, it's $31.40 up to $96.43. The stock is way off its lows, so there's definitely a lot of room to run back towards those previous highs if, some positive news hits.
So the price action looks weak recently, but there's potentially a lot of upside headroom. How does an investor make sense of that downward pressure?
Well, we look at momentum indicators. The 14-day relative strength index, the RSI, it's sitting at 37.54.
And what does that mean, roughly?
The RSI basically measures price momentum. Is the stock overbought or oversold?
Yeah.
A reading below 40, like this 37.54, it kind of suggests the stock is approaching oversold territory, or maybe that the recent selling is running out of steam. So technically, it hints the price might be primed for a bounce if some good news comes along, and the shorter-term view seems to support that. The 3-month bullish trading range outlook is pegged between $51 and $76.
You definitely need a strong stomach for this one, though, right? This stock is known for some wild swings.
Oh, absolutely. You have to understand the kind of volatility you're signing up for here. This stock has a high beta 2.38.
Explain beta quickly.
Sure. Think of beta as how much a stock tends to move compared to the overall market, like the S&P 500. A beta over 1 means it's more volatile. So a beta of 2.38 means if the market has a bad week, Upstart could potentially fall twice as hard. But on the flip side, it could also rise twice as fast when things are good.
So high risk, high potential reward.
Exactly. That's pretty typical for a disruptive fintech like this, but it's something investors absolutely need to be comfortable with. It's not negotiable.
Okay, and we also had to touch on these conflicting signals within the investor base itself. We've seen positive institutional flows, right? Big funds buying in Q2 and Q3 this year, and retail sentiment is apparently extremely bullish.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's been significant insider selling. How do we reconcile that?
Yeah, this is a classic dilemma and needs careful thought. The steady institutional buying, that usually signals long-term belief in the core AI platform and maybe this whole de-risking strategy. Those big funds are often looking years down the road.
Okay, makes sense.
But the insider selling is a definite flag, a watch out. We've seen Scott Darling, for instance, make multiple large share sales between July and September, and there was another proposed sale of 1,000 shares filed just recently, October 1st.
So how do you weigh that? Big money conviction versus caution from someone inside the company?
Well, insider selling can happen for lots of reasons, right? It could be for personal financial planning, diversification, needing liquidity. It doesn't always mean they lack faith in the company. But it can also signal that maybe some key people feel the current stock price is a bit stretched in the short term, even if they believe in the long-term potential. The key thing for you, the listener, is just to acknowledge it. Internal leadership is taking some money off the table after the recent price strength. It adds a layer of caution you have to weigh against the positive fundamentals.
Okay, good point. Let's look ahead then. What's the single biggest near-term thing that could potentially break this stock out of its current range, the main catalyst?
Oh, that's definitely the upcoming Q3 2025 earnings report. It's scheduled for October 30th. And this is set up to be a really high-impact event because expectations are just enormous, largely driven by that strategic pivot we talked about earlier.
How enormous are we talking here?
Well, the analyst consensus is expecting Q3 2025 EPS of year-over-year growth rate.
800%. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so this is really where the rubber meets the road. The market is betting that shifting to those higher quality, lower loss loans will create massive leverage on the bottom line. They're hoping the company finally starts capitalizing on that stable revenue by drastically cutting its loss rate. If they deliver a beat here, it basically validates the entire de-risking strategy.
But with expectations that high, that earnings call is definitely going to be a volatility event, win or lose.
Absolutely. Huge potential swing either way. And beyond the hard numbers, there's also some, speculative buzz floating around that could influence long-term value. Market chatter suggests a potential major partnership could be in the works, maybe with a top 10 U.S. regional bank.
Okay, that would be a game changer. That would instantly give them a massive boost in their loan origination channels and access to lending capital.
Exactly. And the second rumor revolves around expansion into new AI-driven products. Specifically, people are speculating about them launching home equity lines of credit ELO SACs, or maybe getting into auto loans. Either of those would massively expand their total addressable market, letting them leverage their existing AI into huge new areas.
All right, so lots of potential upside catalysts. But before we wrap up with the final thesis, let's quickly revisit the critical risks. Where could this optimistic story fall apart?
Okay, first, we have to circle back to that negative cash flow position. We mentioned it before, but it's critical. If credit markets tighten up again, or if the cost of borrowing keeps rising, it just gets more and more expensive for Upstart to fund its operations and growth, no matter how good their AI is.
Right, access to capital is key.
Second, even with their internal improvements shifting to super prime, they're not totally immune to broader economic cycles. If the U.S. economy hits a really rough patch, even those high-quality borrowers will feel the strain, and that credit risk ultimately flows back to Upstart. And finally, there's always execution risk. Trying to integrate complex AI into brand new product lines like HLOCs or auto loans, it's technically challenging, it needs regulatory approval, and there could be delays or cost overruns. It's not guaranteed to be smooth sailing.
Okay, so summing it all up, we have a company in the middle of a big pivot trying to move from volatile growth to maybe more stable, de-risked growth. It's got a high beta stock that looks technically oversold and a massive earnings catalyst just around the corner. Distilling everything from the sources, what's the overall investment thesis look like?
Well, the overall consensus leans strongly bullish. It scores about an 8.5 out of 10 based on the sources. The combination of that AI advantage plus the apparently successful operational shift towards better credit quality makes it look attractive, actually, for two types of investors. Both short-term traders who might want to play that upcoming earnings catalyst on October 30th, and also long-term holders who are betting on the AI and the expansion into new markets over time.
A compelling story, definitely, but clearly one that comes with significant risk and requires a high tolerance for volatility. As our listener goes away to think about this, what's maybe the single biggest idea or question they should keep in mind about Upstart Holdings?
I'd say focus on the real meaning behind that shift to super prime lending, that 26% figure. If that trend continues, if they keep demonstrating they can intentionally target higher quality borrowers when needed, you really have to ask yourself, does this prove that AI isn't just a tool for finding more borrowers, but actually a superior capital management tool, one that fundamentally de-risks the entire fintech lending model? Because if their AI can truly deliver stable credit quality even when the economy gets shaky, well, maybe it justifies a much higher long-term valuation premium compared to traditional lenders. That's the core re-rating opportunity, I think.
Superior capital management tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely shifts the perspective from just tech speculation to operational strength. That's a great thought to lead the people with. Thank you for breaking all that down for us today. Really helpful. And thank you, listener, for tuning in for this look at Upstart Holdings. We appreciate your time, and we'll catch you on the next one.